Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest edition on Lead with Impact. We're going to be thinking out of the box today, talking a lot about healthcare recruitment and how it has changed over the past few years. It's a very important topic when we're talking about healthcare and the industry and how we can all do better when it comes to career development in an environment that does definitely involve healthcare recruitment. So I like to bring to the stage my partner in crime, Dr. Andrea Clark. We're going to have this candid conversation, and I'm hoping that you will get a lot of good intelligence out of this, some knowledge that you can share with others. This will be an interactive session. So if you'd like to ask us questions, this is live. Go ahead and if you're joining us on LinkedIn or you're joining us on YouTube or Facebook or wherever you may be, go ahead and pop your question into the comments and we will be able to address them live during this half-hour show. So I'd like to bring Dr. Clark to the mic. Look at you, this mic. And how are you?
I'm great, Grant. Thank you so much for asking. And once again, it's always a pleasure to
This is
have
wonderful. This is wonderful.
moment.
I'm looking forward to a candid discussion with you and just so the audience, because some people may or may not be aware of yourself and your career and the things that you have done. Just give us just a brief overview on the Dr. Clark story, and then we can go ahead and get started. How about that?
Yeah, sure. My name is Andrea Clark. I'm originally from the Tulsa, Oklahoma area, transitioned over there after studying at Oklahoma State in the molecular genetics, cellular molecular biology, getting all that science under my belt. I was able to transition over into the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area, where I was able to take my skills from the clinical side of medicine, the technical side of medicine, and then the research side of medicine. I was able to transition those skills over into Howard Hughes University, Howard Hughes Medical Institute, where we were able to work with a pseudo tuberculosis research there in the microbial space of research. It was then able to transition over to the National Institute of Health, where I got more exposure and expertise in laboratory medicine. As I was there at NIH, I was able to reconfigure their specific reference laboratory department that they had a client vendor relationship with the Mayo Clinic. With my efforts and vision to reconfigure the laboratory there in-house at the National Institute of Health, I was tapped from senior executives at Mayo Clinic to then build a national department for their reference laboratories of partnerships that they have throughout the nation. So I was able to spearhead a brand new department for Mayo Clinic, which was the reference laboratory, and really scale that on a national level. So I was able to go into multiple hospitals throughout the United States and establish mini laboratories in their laboratory, so then we can ship those specimens off to Mayo Clinic so we can test any type of esoteric testing that the hospital cannot test in-house.
That's very interesting. That sounds like a journey and an experience with a lot of different people, a lot of different departments, a lot of different areas of the country that you've been involved in. So you form the baseline of our discussion around healthcare recruitment, because if you had to get a whole team together on a nationwide basis, you probably went through a lot of these things that we're going to talk about and can lend some good information to the audience. So we're going to jump right in. And this is, these questions have come from industry sources that they feel that they are top of mind for a lot of healthcare executives throughout the country and in the area of recruitment. With workforce is a big thing. So the first question that has come up is, with increasing healthcare demands and a rapidly growing aging population, why is it more important than ever to think outside the box in terms of recruitment?
Well, you're right. With the aging population, we're living longer, we're healthier, we're stronger. And with the inverse of that, our workforce in the healthcare is diminishing, and kind of going down in numbers as we're needing more of healthcare workers and professionals. They're actually resigning, even though they have active licensures. So, therefore, as healthcare needs grow, particularly with the aging population, the demand for skilled professionals are outpacing the supply, and the traditional recruitment methods are just insufficient. So we have to be more agile and innovative with our strategies. And I say that we need to tap into new talents, new talent pools, such as career changers, right? A lot of us start our career in one profession and we're looking to go into different professions. So we really need to give visibility of the opportunities to non-traditional professionals that's looking and open and willing to look at healthcare from a fresh perspective in a new lens, or even our veterans and professionals from other fields like technology. We have non-traditional approaches also, including, as you know, remote work. How can we look at more flexible schedules, and even the AI piece? How can that be utilized to drive and talent and recruitment into the field as well?
I like that. So we've got to think outside the box, just like this
Mhm.
has been named. Very important, because if you keep going down the traditional route that we have been on, we're going to run out of people.
Yeah, you
you
get the
know,
same thing, get the same results. Exactly.
the same results that you already have.
Mhm.
And I know when I was at one of the, I think it was at a clinic, and I started to see people that were handicapped
Mhm.
working in their stations, that normally, you don't see that a lot of. Or like you were saying, people are at home, normally they may be outside of the normal workforce, but
Mhm.
hey, you know what, I can still operate a computer, I can talk to people over the phone, I'm still very agile in that way, as long as I
Mhm.
don't have to, get up and do certain things that I had to do, maybe 10, 20 years ago. I can still operate.
Yeah,
So let's not take them out of the equation of when we talk about recruitment, and then
exactly.
those skill sets that are so still necessary to deliver care. Now,
Mhm.
there's a statistic that came in, and I did not know this, and so I learned a lot around this. And the question came up as, with 47% of healthcare workers planning to leave, meaning get out of healthcare, that's half of the workforce by 2025.
Mhm.
What retention strategies would you implement to sustain a skilled workforce after recruitment?
Hmm. That's a huge number, and it will definitely do a lot of damage in the workforce arena when it comes to healthcare professionals and the needs that we have to serve our patients in our community as a whole. So, thank you for sharing that statistic with me. I think it goes back to, I always say this multiple times in our meetings, getting back to the basis, checking in with your team sooner rather than later, really getting to the root cause of the why, right? 47%, that's a big number, but it always has a why there, right? So, really getting granular, asking some real detailed questions, authentic questions with these professionals, and really seeking ways that you can tap into other skills that they may be able to leverage in other areas. So you can just go out of the healthcare space, or we can create a new space where we can utilize you in a new capacity, right? And a lot of times, the infrastructure of that to kind of create that bridge is making sure that we have adequate mentoring programs, career development opportunities, and making sure that's really visible to our team, and a lot of stress management, that we're actively checking in on our team and making sure that they're not overworked, overstressed, of the responsibility they have. And I want to say this real quick. A lot of times in public health, we talk about a new approach to treating patients. And a lot of times we're looking at it from a more not necessarily the diagnosis and the disease, but from the social determinant factor, looking at a more holistic approach. So I would say as a leader, even as you're leading teams in an administration, you want to take that more holistic, systematic approach to retaining talent in healthcare by integrating frameworks that align with various elements of the organizations, looking at your revisiting your policy, revisiting the culture, revisiting your leadership style, and how the systems that's in place to really support the employees.
So this is why we're having this discussion.
Mm-hmm.
We've got, I'm still just floored by that stat. Half the people in the workforce, or let's say in healthcare, are looking to leave. That's a big churn. It's a huge churn. You can't just turn around and just replace, those types of people because they take with them the experience. You've got to retrain a whole new workforce coming in, show them how to deliver stellar care, along that whole spectrum. And so what you're bringing up is so important. And I want to even tie that back a little bit. What we're doing with Lead with Impact is that, are we truly building opportunities for people? If they can see, if I do what I'm doing right now, but I know that within a year and a half or so, I'm going to get that new opportunity. I'm going to get either a promotion, I'm going to be at that director, VP level, if that's what your track is, or you're going to get the skills and training. They're investing in you. Do you feel that could, help with that number? If organizations, we got to invest money into our people, because if they lose at that rate, we're losing money overall.
Exactly. Yeah, you come out on the, on the inverse of that, unfortunately. But yeah, exactly what you're saying. What creates opportunities is new skills, right? And when you're investing in your team and giving them, not giving them, but teaching them and curating new skills within them, or also identifying skills that they have, not necessarily in their what they were professionally trained to do, but they may be just innately a natural leader, very influential in the department. How can you create or customize a position or a new responsibility to keep them engaged? With my team working in Mayo Clinic, I had a team, but they were dispersed throughout the United States. So I had a very interesting task of how to keep them engaged when I'm so far away, tucked away in Washington, D.C., right? But what I did is I caught them early, and I didn't just hire them for one position. I wanted to know kind of a 360 approach. What else do you like to do? Oh, you know a lot about programming and dashboards. Okay, well, get on this committee and and let's talk to you about helping us build out some SOPs. And it kept them engaged, and it also allowed them to develop new skills that they can continue to leverage. So really tapping into the future you, and then asking yourself, like we would do at Lead with Impact, what skills do I need that I'm going to have to execute on an everyday basis, right? To grow into the professional I see myself as. And that's what we do with Lead with Impact. We give you those tools, we give you those skills. So then as you're growing, you're already equipped for the job ahead.
I like that. I was working with a client along those same lines. And her title was, she was the leader around a pharmacy and imaging. However, her background was in other things. Like, she had done like 3-4 other different roles. She saw herself holistically.
Yeah.
But if the business or the healthcare system only saw her in that one role,
exactly,
of pharmacy and imaging, that was all they would see. They're not seeing the whole person. So someone else could hire her away. Like, you know what? We see you doing all kinds of different things, not just this one thing. I like the multiplicity. Your approach, I think, is textbook. So you're not just seeing you just for that one position. No. I'm looking at you for several different things. And if you communicate that, if you came to me and say, hey, Grant, I really like what you're doing. Yeah, I see, your personal branding world, but you do great in business development as well. And you've got some finance background here. Exactly. I can see you going far in the organization as we tap into that skill. I like that approach.
Exactly. Exactly. And like you said, taking on and yes, they're qualified for this particular role, but really taking in those conversations of who are you aspiring to be, who are you evolving to be, and identifying in a multifaceted way the skills that they have outside of their role. But what other skills are they just naturally exuding and budding within them, and really capturing that as a leader, and then allowing programs and systems and operations to build those skills so they can create new avenues and opportunities and pathways for themselves.
Full potential. Let's tap into your full potential. Let's get it all out there and leave it all in the field. I like it. Those are we're talking about recruitment strategies for people that are joining us late. And here's the next question that came up. This is on a national basis. These are the like 5 questions that people are asking around healthcare recruitment strategies. And so here's the question. How can recruitment strategies be tailored to attract candidates from underrepresented communities, including career changers?
Hmm. Well, coming from underrepresented communities such as myself, I think, and I've always realized the way that I was able to grow as a first generational college student, a first generational healthcare student, is exposure, right? So, what outreach programs that we have, or partnerships that we have with organizations, educational institutions, or even community centers, right? That we can show up, right? Because we always talk about in upskill, there's power in showing up. You'd be surprised of how many opportunities come your way if you just show up. That's half of the battle. So I say that when we go into leadership, when it comes to healthcare, where are the places that we're really showing up? Of course, it's easier to show up at the more, the big four institutions and things of that nature. But are we really showing up at those community level, creating career pathway programs for underserved communities, or even fast track education program that enables these young careerists or emerging professionals to really get immersed in the healthcare community and really see what the day-to-day task is like, and giving them the exposure to dream, to envision their self in those places. So showing up to those local community facilities, I always think is the best approach.
I think that's important. I literally was talking to a young lady today.
Mhm.
She wants to be a phlebotomist, and she's got her medical degree. She's looking to get into the healthcare industry. And I've heard from another individual that they're looking to get into the information technology world within healthcare, and they're just having trouble actually landing positions with certain healthcare entities. And I'm just curious to know, is it because they just, there's one thing is just having a resume that's out there, and then you've got a software more or less combing through the resume before it even gets put in front of an HR individual that may or may not bring you in. And here we are talking about a workforce shortage, and yet, lack of pipeline. And then I'm hearing on the other side of the ball, people say, well, I'm not getting callbacks. People aren't, tapping me on the shoulder.
Yeah.
Would you suggest to them that they maybe work through recruitment, like headhunter organizations, things of that nature, or getting involved in like you're saying, community structure, so people can actually know who you are to bring you through that process? Talk to us about that a little bit.
That's really good. And I love to talk about that because I work with a lot of emerging professionals. We bring on interns with upskill to help us, facilitate things as well. And they're a lot of times in that position. They are in graduate school, they've got their MHA or their budding phlebotomist or whatever the case may be. And they just can't penetrate those circles, right? Break through that next level. I would suggest that at that stage, whether you're pivoting or whether you're trying to proverbially get your foot in the door, you just need to take a no stone unturned approach. It's not necessarily, okay, if I just put the right keywords in, which we know that's important with SEOs and everything and how the recruitment process is operating now. But it's not just what you put on Indeed. It's not just going to a recruitment center. It's going to the network industries. It's reaching out on LinkedIn and introducing yourself to professionals that may or particularly may not know you and asking for 15-20 minutes of their time so you can put yourself out there and show them that you're very serious about going into this industry and you just want to know what are their expertise and skills that they use to penetrate these circles. So I think you have to take it's work, right? But you'll get a valuable return in your investments. So that's something that I would recommend, especially for people that's trying to get into the healthcare space. You need to every possible opportunity. You need to rustle up the courage and just put yourself out there in so many different arenas.
I like what you said. You bone in one of my passions I do around personal branding. You've got to be out in front of people. Like we're out in front of an audience right now, showcasing expertise and thought leadership in the healthcare leadership world. You cannot rely on old tactics to get a different result.
Or just one tactic, or two. You have to, it's like any type of strategy. You have to do an analysis. Okay, what works? Refine that. Okay, what worked? What didn't work? Refine that until you actually hit your sweet spot, right?
That brings us to this fourth question. I mean, we're right there. You are so on point, Dr. Clark. And that question comes in and it says, how can leadership play a role in identifying and mentoring emerging talent to ensure a sustainable healthcare workforce for the future? So that's the leadership. How do they play a role in identifying emerging talent?
Yeah, I think, and that's a great question because that's what we want to capture. Like I said, we want to capture the more mature generation. We want to capture those career changers, but we also want to make sure that we are branding ourselves properly as a healthcare organization and the service that we offer to the patients and community at large as effectively and authentically to the younger generations, right? So I would say that setting things in place that the younger generation can identify, which is flexibility if the position allows it, of course, and then also gig work, right? Because we know that we're in a gig economy. How can we create a framework, a system, to offer positions where it's more of a gig type of opportunity, something that the younger generation is used to doing, right? Because typically they get online, they do a little gig work here, good work there. And then if you have those type of frameworks also embedded in the healthcare system, I think there'll be more open to that, as well as our traditional offerings such as internships, apprenticeships, and mentor programs. And then those flex team schedules, right? Where you can be more flexible in your role and you can be kind of more PRN in certain roles. And then, like I said, cross-functional training is always important with the younger generation because it's all about engaging, keeping them stimulated at all times. They are constantly stimulated with a lot of digital devices. So when they go into the world and if it's moving too slow in a lot of ways, they get disconnected and uninterested, right?
Yes. No, you said a good point. And there are 5 generations of workers in the workforce now. A lot of people don't realize that. And I talked about this before because it always shocked me. Someone said this at an event and he said, what does James Bond look like? I'll never forget that. And I was like, whoa, James Bond, everybody knows who James, like, no, because depending on how old you are, your generation, James Bond looks like 5 different people. I just did not really think about that. Does he look like Roger Moore, to you? Does he look like Sean Connery, to you? Pierce Bronson, to you? Roger Craig, to you?
Depending on the generation.
They're not wrong. The whole point is they're not wrong. That's what James Bond looks like, to them. So understanding what does the workforce look like to you? What does the leadership look like for you? Or as you point, what does the strategy look like for you? Because if you haven't dusted off your strategy and last time let's say you're looking for a job or you're looking to hire. You know what? We got to hire. We got this whole new project that's coming up. Like you were talking about laboratory, I've got to now pull from a national pool of people and see who I can hire and understanding there are different mindsets out there now. And if I don't account for all these different things, like you said, the flex schedules, flexibility, having some kind of digital tools, that's going to engage a certain segment of that. But then that same person that may be on the team, that might intimidate them. Like, wow, I'm not up to speed technically on all this stuff. What are they really asking me to do? But I've got a zillion years doing what they're asking me to do. So there's a lot of things to have those conversations and understanding those roles and responsibilities. Right.
And I'll say this just to piggyback off of that. You're right. Look at I love your James Bond analogy. What I may see in my generation of what James Bond looks like, is different from what you will see or what someone else or my son would see. So you're right. How are we branding ourselves as far as organization to really foster and bring in that young, fresh talent? And how can we rebrand ourselves if needed be, right? And be as flexible and agile as that. And also it's a lot of hospitals also, they're going straight and creating a pipeline from high school into the healthcare industry pipeline. So these are brand new strategies and approaches that we didn't use X amount of years ago that may be able to get the young emerging generation of healthcare professionals and foster them and nurture them and mentor them early to retain, their commitment to the public service of healthcare.
I love that. And that gets us to our last question we're going to ask. And that's around fostering creativity. This is a new skill for leaders across all levels. And how does it directly influence the outcome? We're talking patient care, organizational growth, and team morale. So why is fostering creativity a key skill for leaders across all levels? Can you answer that question?
Yeah, I think like creativity, I think we talked about this a bit in our last live. Creativity is kind of, I say, the blood flow of everything that we live, see, and breathe, right? So it's so important to foster a creative mindset because, like I said, it allows you to color outside the lines. What worked for us, and when it comes to recruiting and retaining talent, such as nurses, giving them bonuses or, things of that nature, those are just table stakes now when it comes to recruitment, right? We have to get more creative. And a way that you get more creative, if you bring more creative talent around you at the table, in the room, right? And that's something I really like about Lead with Impact, is because that's exactly what we're fostering. It's a creative approach. Not only are we just giving you case studies to work through, we really want to tap into your creativity and how do you integrate that into the skills and the new knowledge that you've learned throughout this 2-day summit. So I would say creativity is something very essential, no matter what position and area you are in the healthcare space. You need to be creative. Like I said, with myself at NIH, it wasn't too much built in that reference space, but I had to see what was not visible and tangible, and I had to create something new. I had to create outside the box. And then when I scaled that nationally, what was needed in Texas was totally different of what they needed in Oregon and West Virginia. So you have to always have a creative approach so you can build the right infrastructure for a team to feel supported and thrive.
That's so important. We only got a couple of minutes left. I know you've got a big announcement about Lead with Impact taking place at Miami-Dade College, the medical campus.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, so like I said, we're both really been working hard at this, strategizing and really trying to see how can we serve, what these professionals need as they're seeing themselves and believing that these skills are going to take them to the next level. So as you said, we are hosting our Lead with Impact, giving you pretty much the secrets to the C-suites at Miami-Dade, the medical campus, March 22nd through the 23rd. This is a day and a half executive leadership training with myself, Grant, and our powerhouse CFO, Latasha Barnes, will come in teaching you more strategic and creative leadership styles to not only empower you and grow you as a professional, but how you can really serve the needs of your team and other professionals that you work in, right? We're going to teach that executive presence, kind of ties in with that professional branding, right? How you show up matters. That is very important, but we want to be as strategic as possible with that. And then also with Latasha Barnes teaching us that financial acumen. And then we jam pack all that in, put you at the round table, and then we bring in an executive chef where he comes in and teaches that culinary, fine arts, culinary piece, and the wine tasting. So I'm really excited about this event at Miami-Dade, March the 22nd to the 23rd at the medical campus. I
Yes,
hope to
we
see
gave us another 60 days. We needed to get more people involved because we listened to our audience. We said, Grant,
everyone.
we're just coming out of the holidays. We can we get a little bit more time? So we got together, and of course with the medical campus said this is probably the more ideal moment for us,
Mhm.
so we can have a very robust conversation. We're going to continue to have these types of lives so people can get an opportunity to ask questions to see exactly what they're going to invest their time into and what they're expecting to get out of it. So this has been great. I want to thank you again for being
No
with us
problem.
on this Friday, Dr. Clark, and we will
No
see you
problem.
again very, very soon.
Very soon. Thank you so much, Grant. It's a pleasure.
You're welcome.